why wouldn't you want to get deeper in it? Like when people pick up new hobbies, they always become nerds about that hobby, right? Like
Right.
I started skydiving. Next thing, after my first 2 skydiving lessons, I'm on an airplane reading a book about piloting a parachute, right? Like how to pilot your wing. And I happened to be sitting next to a pilot. And they were like, "What are you reading?" Because they saw some of the diagrams. And I was like, "Oh, I just started skydiving." They were like, "Word?" And then they were like, "What do you?" They're like, "That's thermodynamics right there. That's what I had to learn in college to be a pilot." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's the same stuff." But I'm nerding out on thermodynamics and lift and glide slopes and whatever just because I wanted to be a good parachutist. Turns out I wasn't very good at it. Spoiler alert: I broke my leg. Um, but that's normal to get into a new thing, right? I started playing guitars and like I nerd out on guitar stuff, right? But we don't nerd out on Christianity very often anymore. And
Yeah,
that's
we
I
have,
think that's kind of the point.
and I don't think most people are self-directed in that. And that's why you need a church that
I agree. I agree with
insists on
that.
that. That says things like like what you read in Hebrews 5. I have much to say about this, but it's hard to explain because you're slow to learn, though by this time you ought to be
You should be
teachers.
teachers, but you still
You,
need milk. Yeah.
yeah, you need someone to, feed you your bottle
Yeah.
because you're infants. And that wasn't just you know, a lighthearted rebuke. That was a stern warning about losing their salvation. But we have a version of the gospel that tells people you can't lose your salvation. You don't do anything, you contribute nothing, it's all God, zero you. Any time, like I told you about when I quoted Second Peter to somebody, the therefore make every effort to add to your
Mhm.
faith all of these qualities. That's not what it means. Well,
Yeah.
I just quoted it verbatim. It's the Apostle Peter you're arguing with. It's not me. Well, I know what you're saying with it. I didn't say anything. I just quoted it. Like, and if
Sound
that's
like
your
libs of TikTok.
reflex, if that's your reflex when you hear somebody quote scripture verbatim, you've got a problem. And that's a widespread problem. You quote these things and people want to lawyer it. So it says the opposite of what it says because that conflicts with the
Well,
questions they
in
brought